Hello, folks. I'd just like to talk about the events of the last week or so, particularly the creation of the Racial Inequality Commission by Boris Johnson last weekend, and his appointment of Munira Mirza to the chair of that commission. I don't think anybody can be in any doubt that there's a great lack of sincerity when it comes to tackling racism on the part of Boris Johnson. He's no anti-racist. He's no friend of black people or even brown people. Yeah. This is a man who says, comes out with lines like, pickaninnies with watermelon smiles. But Munira Mirza, she's problematic for a good many reasons. First of all, she was a deputy mayor while Boris Johnson was London mayor. Well, that may not be a problem in itself necessarily, but she's a member of the contrarian outfit, the Revolutionary Communist Party, the RCP. They're actually defunct now, so she was a member of that party. I remember them back in the 1980s when I was an undergraduate at Newcastle Polytechnic. They'd appear at meetings, usually standing at the back, so meetings of CND, anti-apartheid campaign, or movement rather, and even the Nicaragua Solidarity campaign. And they'd just attend these meetings with the sole purpose of disrupting them. And I'd have these stand-up or these running clashes with them. Every meeting I went to, they were there too. So I have very little time for anything the alumni of the RCP actually say with regards to combating racism. The successor organizations of the RCP, which folded, I believe, in 1992, were Living Marxism, the magazine, which itself was bankrupted and became LM. You've got Spiked Online, which was set up by Mick Hume, which features all manner of reactionary right-wingers and contrarians, especially Brendan O'Neill, who's not terribly bright. But Munira Mirza also writes for Spiked Online. And one of the articles that she had published back in 2017 is an article that was written in response to the Lammy report. Lammy Review, The Myth of Institutional Racism. I don't think I need to read any more of that article to you. The fact that Mirza does not believe in the existence of institutional or indeed structural racism should set off alarm bells. She has absolutely no intention of producing a report that is worth the paper that it's written on. This leads me to Boris Johnson himself, because some of the phrases that he used last week were quite telling. One was victimization and discrimination. The other one was narrative of success. Let's take the first one. Victimization. Okay, this is a word that tends to be used by the far right and white supremacists whenever a person of color complains of racism or talks of their experiences of racism. It's a way to diminish those experiences. So they'll say, oh, you shouldn't be a victim. Oh, you're a martyr, and all the rest of it. So Johnson was actually pandering to white supremacists when he used that word victimization. Discrimination, yeah, that exists, but that is not the sum total of racism because it is exercised structurally and institutionally. It's not just hating somebody for their color, okay? That's only a little bit of it, yeah? Then there's the narrative of success. What does he have in mind? To pick out a few black and brown success stories like Priti Patel and, I don't know, who else? Kemi Badenoch, for example, and say, hey, look, you know, but those are exceptions rather than the rule. Not only that, they actually play the game, as it were. Now, this leads me to something else, because I just mentioned Priti Patel there, because I've noticed in the last week that the Tories have been wheeling out people like her to talk of their own experiences of racism. And I don't think anybody can be in any doubt that the whole idea behind that is to try and neutralize the demands, the complaints of the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the demands for equality by anti-racists. That's what that is. Not only that, it's also an attempt to gaslight people of color. We know what we experience on a day-to-day basis. We don't need Tories of color to come out and say, oh, well, I've experienced racism too, and I think you're being unfair. Well, sorry, butter doesn't cut any mustard with me. I'd like to turn now to Dominic Raab, Rabid, as I often call him in my blog. Yeah, I'm going to come right out and say it. He's a racist, okay? He knew what he was doing when he described taking a knee as being a symbol of subjugation and it coming from Game of Thrones. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was being racist. He was pandering to white supremacists. And he repeated it again in an interview the following day. So the Tories literally have no intention of dealing with racism either structurally or institutionally. We had the race disparity audit when Theresa May was the leader of the Conservative Party and the Prime Minister, and it told us exactly what we already knew, and nothing came out of that. Okay, so whenever governments set up these reports or these bodies or these commissions, whatever you want to call them, all they're doing is kicking the issue into the long grass. That's all for now.